Sam, welcome to the Tech 45 podcast. I'm so excited you're here. I so enjoyed your presentation here at Office Evolution in Fairfax. I thought it was incredible. I learned so much in a short period of time. So, if you don't mind, could you introduce yourself for our listeners?
Sure. Hi, Jack. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Samantha Millagro. I'm the founder of Samantha Digital, and Samantha Digital is a digital marketing agency for ambitious entrepreneurs and business owners looking for more website traffic leads from their website using web design and SEO. And I started Samantha Digital in 2022 after primarily doing food blogging. And it was so much fun. I love it. I love food. I love lifestyle. I love blogging in general. But I really thought that I could do more with the web design and the SEO piece. So that has been my number one focus for the past few years, and I've absolutely been loving it and so happy that you found that presentation helpful.
Oh yeah, it was amazing. When Fred, the owner here of this Office Evolution franchise, told me he was doing a web design and SEO marketing presentation, like someone, and when I found out it was like one of the people that he works with, you, I was so excited, and I found just like in general throughout my life, some of the people I've worked with to help build different businesses I've been a part of, I found that like the smaller the organization, the more agency and accountability there is. So like I don't have to like I could go and hire like an SEO marketing firm that has just a ton of people and probably some hierarchy. But when you work with people, when you work with businesses like yours, like a small local business, like you're dealing with Sam. Like Sam is going to give you the answer. Like Sam, like, it's just a much more efficient and better way to work. I feel like, and I found that with almost every profession. Lawyers, accountants, web design people. The smaller the organization, the more accountability there is. So I just think it's cool what you're doing. And thanks for giving an overview of what you do. I know this is like a passion project of yours, and you probably learned a lot by running your own blog and how to optimize, the reach of your own blog. And I'm curious to know, like, are there any software tools that you've used either recently or in the last few years that have really like had a lot of value in what you do, like that, or provided like, a lot of value to your clients?
Yeah. So I think the number one SEO tool that I use every day and beginner SEO people use every day that even business owners can use is a tool called Detailed SEO Chrome extension. And it's just a browser extension and it tells you all, not all, so much key SEO data at a glance. And I swear I'm using it every day. Pretty much every time I go to a web page for SEO, I'm opening up this plugin, and it's just such a powerful tool for both people that are very experienced in SEO and newbies. So I've been using this since like day one, and I can't recommend it enough.
Okay, detailed SEO extension.
Yep.
Okay, so this is on the Chrome Web Store. I'm just gonna share my screen
Oh, yeah, great.
just so I don't forget too. And this is cool. You showed this to us during your in-person presentation when you came and shared with us. So let me share this
Oh, great.
with our audience too, because yeah, this is exactly what you pulled up during your presentation. Either this or like a snapshot of it on Google Slides that you put together. I think this is powerful, and I think this is probably a good starting point for someone who's new to SEO, search engine optimization for those that don't know what it stands for. But check this out. I'm probably going to download this and add it to my Chrome browser right after this because this is something that I've been meaning to do since you presented to us. And
That's great.
yeah, Chrome's a powerful tool. Chrome, I still don't understand like I think about like the origin of Chrome, and Google was like creating this web browser, and from what I understand, this was kind of like a skunk work project that the Google software team was developing, and I think it was a pet project that Sergey and Larry put together. I think like the CEO of Google at the time, when Chrome came out, like, didn't even know they were developing a web browser, and
Oh,
like this
really?
was kind of like yeah, it was like kind of like a hidden project that the founders really wanted, and initially a lot of the leaders at Google thought like it was a really dumb project, which is funny.
That's crazy. Because one interesting thing that Chrome absolutely does do that is important for SEO is it tracks user behavior. So if somebody clicks into your blog post, clicks out of it, goes back, looks at the different result, it tracks that and it's like, okay, this blog post didn't solve the user query. Like that's a bad sign. So, um, yeah, I mean, I feel like even though it's free, like Google always has their way of their underlying motives of how they're gonna, you know, make the most out of these free tools. So,
I
um,
know. I mean, I'm with you. I'm like slowly like starting to switch everything over to Google Workspaces. Like I used to for this podcast, I used to use like Calendly. I love Calendly, but
oh,
like it's great. It's a great tool, and there's probably a lot of features in it that I didn't leverage. But like if you use like the Google Workspaces tool, it comes with a scheduling app, and
yeah,
that's what I scheduled with you on. Um, and so I kind of just like slowly merging like my whole workflow for this podcast into Google would take it or leave it. It's easy. I mean, it works well, and I can run everything on the cloud now too, which is nice. So.
yeah, I know a lot of people that are making that switch, and I haven't done it yet only because I have a couple um, of booking pages where there's a payment associated with it. So if you book me for consulting, then I can collect the payment right there. But, it's just like all of these 10, 12, $15 monthly recurring charges that like really
Yep,
add up over time. And
totally.
so, yeah, I don't know. It is very tempting to like look at it and just send a Stripe invoice after or something because one less invoice sounds great.
I know it. No, I totally get what you're saying. Like I was, and a lot of my buddies that are super into software are saying the same thing. Like they're trying to get me to switch over to Linux, which I'm considering. And they're like, yeah, if you switch over to Linux, there's so many like free open source tools that you can download that do like very similar things. Like there's a free open source software tool for video editing. There's one for streaming. Like if you and I wanted to stream or record this in a different format. We're using StreamYard now because it's like it's super easy to use for
So
a dummy
cool.
like me. Yeah, it works, and it works well in Chrome. It works well in Chrome and Firefox. But I am like starting to explore, what other free tools are out there because now, with all this open source software, like someone like you and I could like just take that repository of software, make little tweaks, and then release it. And people can run a software business pretty lean now.
Yeah,
I think we're going to see that more and more where like the cost of these software tools is going to plummet because the cost to develop them based off of available software out there is going to be so low.
yeah,
So, which will be good for entrepreneurs that are just getting started and don't want to pay like a bunch of, $10, $20 per month invoices like you're describing.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and very similar to that, I think we're seeing a lot of that also with um, AI. Like AI is a helps me keep my business so lean. Like I have a part-time assistant, but beyond that, like ChatGPT is my best friend. Like I would not. I mean, my business is very far from where I want it to be, but it would certainly not be where it is today if it wasn't for ChatGPT. Like, and just the other AI tools out there. And I think that is so cool. Like how much a single person can now scale their business without having to, pay full-time salaries or hire a lot of people. So yeah, I think that is so cool. And I agree about the other tools out there in general.
Yeah, I totally like glossed over that fact. Like if so, yeah, open source software paired with AI, paired with a smart person like you, and maybe a part-time assistant that
Yeah.
can be virtual. Really, I have friends that have virtual assistants, and they don't even live in the United States. They live somewhere else. They work on Eastern time, but it's like a win-win. Like it's a really good job for that person. They like working off hours from whatever country they live in. They like being able to be free during the day, um, and it's honestly it's worked out great. I've seen a lot of companies that have gone with a more distributed workforce,
Yeah.
and it's just you can do it now, and it'll be more available too with the advent of like satellite-based internet. Like you won't have to be reliant on a Ethernet connection
Yeah.
or a fancy Wi-Fi system like we probably have. I think I'm using probably a Verizon system. I'm not sure
Okay.
what they have here at Office Evolution, but yeah, no, I agree with you. I didn't even like I failed to recognize that like AI um, is going to supplement a lot of these development efforts too, to where like I don't know how to code, but I can use like a natural language processing tool to where like okay, I want to take this software and do this with it. There'll be like an AI tool that will do it for you.
For sure.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
I love it too.
Yeah, I want to learn more about it. I want to learn more about how you use AI in your workflow because you kind of like you started to dive into that during the
Uh-huh.
presentation, And I was like, dang, like this is like a really efficient way to work. I don't know, the way I could just get a taste of your workflow based on like what you were sharing during the
Oh,
presentation. And I'm curious to know like, how has AI like really helped you in your business?
yeah. So I use it all the time for creating content, but you do have to be kind of strategic about it. So some tips that I have are I have a Google Doc that I have bookmarked in Chrome, and this is just like a starting off prompt, and it basically has a description of my business, my services, my target clients, the problems that I'm solving for them, words that I don't like unleashed, expert. I mean, expert's not that like outrageous, but there's like a lot of those terms. I'm like, I don't say these words, don't include them. So I pretty much use that for every prompt. But when I am using ChatGPT to create content, I always start with an outline. I have ChatGPT create the outline, and then I'll say build out the post with these stipulations, with these keywords, and ChatGPT will give a very good first draft. But you need to remember that, like, or at least I treat it as just a first draft. So going back and adding in like human elements to your content, I think is so important. And so, um, if you're just gonna start creating a bunch of AI content, I really don't think it's gonna rank. Like, there was like a big wave when it first launched in 20. Oh gosh, I don't even remember the year now. But whenever it first launched, like everybody was kind of riding that wave of just like putting out content. But Google caught on quickly. It can detect AI content. So injecting that human element to it, the experience, and your own opinion will really help take your AI content and it to the next level. And it can become something that you're proud of. Like, I've created AI blog posts back when it first came out, and like now I cringe looking at it and I deleted them because you want to be proud of the content that you're putting out there. And when you're talking about unleashing things and unveiling this and unveiling that, like it kind of makes you cringe. So that's always like my, I don't know, my last check. Like, am I proud? Would I be proud to send this to my client? And if not, then I go back and refine it. And one tip that really helps me get a better output from ChatGPT is to say the exact words, don't be exuberant. For some reason, that turns the AI content into like how someone would actually speak. And so I love that. And so,
Wow, that's
um,
great.
yeah, that is a good one. And I also use it. One of my favorite ways to use it lately is actually for coming up with content ideas. So prior to ChatGPT, a common SEO strategy would be to target high search volume, low competition keywords as a new blogger because those would be quick wins or things that you could compete for. But now, if I were to just write a blog post, what is web design? ChatGPT is going to answer that, or the generative AI in the Google search results is going to answer that. So instead, I like to use ChatGPT to come up with content ideas that ChatGPT can't answer. So, for example, WordPress versus Show It. These are two website platforms that ChatGPT can say these are the features of this, these are the features of that, here's the pricing, but that's going to be a totally different blog post than someone that has actually used both and worked with both. And so somebody that really wants to know a comparison is going to want to know more than just that superficial, you know, fluff that ChatGPT can provide. And honestly, ChatGPT will still provide a perfectly fine assessment for you to then take and inject your experience. So yeah, trying to like come up with content ideas like that are really like how I try to use like ChatGPT to come up with content ideas. The other important piece of that though is like you do want to vet the keywords before you just go off and start writing. So if I
Yeah.
were to like search and then let's just say like it's the New York Times, it's Huffington Post, it's all of these very strong websites, then it probably doesn't make sense to target that because it's going to be an uphill battle trying to rank for something like that. And that's where I don't know, did we get to talk about backlinks? I forget if we talked about it in the presentation, but I know
No,
I
I
feel
think
like
you.
a
Yeah,
broken record. I can't like talk about SEO without backlinks because when I started my food blog, I was like, I don't need backlinks. They're expensive. Nobody's going to want to link to a food blogger. But I mean, night and day, my SEO results once I started prioritizing backlinks. And I guess for people that may not know, a backlink is when another website links to your website. And Google sees this as a vote of confidence in your content because at the end of the day, Google is still just an algorithm and it doesn't really know what the best chocolate chip cookie recipe is. But if this chocolate chip cookie recipe has, 10 million shares and just kind of like mentions across the web, that's a really, really good indication that this is a good chocolate chip cookie recipe. Versus, like,
Oh,
this could
cool.
actually be the best chocolate chip cookie recipe, but if no one's talking about it, no one's commenting on it, like no one's linking to it, like Google doesn't know. So that's like the simplest kind of way to think about it. And when you have more backlinks, that when you have more high quality backlinks, that makes your website quote unquote more authoritative. And that in general makes it easier for your website to rank for more competitive keywords.
That's super helpful. Yeah, I think I'm starting to use like AI like algorithms to like come up with like keywords I should put in my posts and hashtags and stuff. I'm like just starting to do this,
I love
and
it.
because my buddy was like watching, he was watching some of like the previous interviews like you did. He was like, dude, like you should be getting way more views. I'm like, no, this is just like this is like I'm just getting started. And he's like, no, no, you need to add like these keywords that are optimized for searches. Like kind of some of the stuff that you said, the way you said it was is like kind of a step further to where like you want other people to be linking to your stuff too.
Totally.
Um, yeah, that makes a lot more sense, and so it gives like your present, like your web presence or your blog or your website, like more legitimacy, I
Right.
guess. And will you rank higher in a Google search? And
Oh, yeah.
yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense. I guess so someone like me, right, like who's like just getting started and just like started to consult with you, like what are some ways like I can get started? Like I think you covered this at a high level when you came out, but what are the baby steps that someone that owns like a local plumbing business or someone that owns a local media company, or someone that does a web design company like you, like what are some baby steps they can take to basically improve their visibility and help people find them?
The very first thing I recommend doing is creating a Google Business Profile account. And this is totally free, and you don't even need a website to create this profile. And this profile is literally just that. You pretty much fill out a form with your business name, a description, your hours, your email, your phone number, a couple photos. And then that will allow you to show up in local searches whenever you see like the map in the results. For example, if you search like ice cream near me, you see like the business listings, so that'll allow you to show up there. And that is so powerful because it's very like has a much higher click rate than like being, fourth or fifth in the traditional search results. And so once you create that profile, the next thing you want to do is reach out to your past clients and ask them to leave a review there because
Oh, okay.
that the biggest ranking factors to, kind of position yourself in one of those top 3 spots is reviews, proximity. So, like, how close are you to the searcher? Like, are you actually in Fairfax? And then your business name. So, for example, if my business name was Fairfax Web Design, it would be so much easier to rank than Samantha Digital. But at this point, for me, like, it kind of is what it is. And I'm just going to double down on reviews. So, you could potentially play with adding a keyword like Samantha Digital Web Design or whatever, but it is technically against Google's guidelines and you could get, suspended. So I don't really recommend doing that. But it is an option. And um, yeah, so anyways, that's the first one. Just do that. You don't need a website. It should really take you like 15 minutes, and it's very powerful, and it's a great place to start collecting reviews. And then the next thing you want to do once you actually have your website is create a Google Search Console account. This is also
Okay.
totally free by Google. And Google Search Console is a tool to say, hey, Google, my website exists. Because just because you have a website doesn't mean that Google will know that it exists. So with Google Search Console, you can submit your website and say, hey, index this, put this in your database, because in order for you to even show up in Google in the first place, your website needs to be indexed. And
Okay.
so, going through this process and getting set up is so important. There's like one tricky step that kind of sometimes business owners get a little bit scared about, because you need to verify that you own the domain. So I needed to verify that I own Samantha Digital, which you would do with your domain registrar, which is, wherever, like GoDaddy or Google Domains, wherever you buy like your website name. So you just go through that verification process, and that will just allow you to show up in the traditional search results beyond just the map. And so those are like the two very first like non-negotiables. If you haven't done that, it should be the first thing that you do. Then the next thing
Yeah.
I would personally recommend is, once you have your website, create a service page for each of your services and tie your location to it, because it's much easier for me to rank high for Fairfax web design than it is for me to just rank for web design services. Web design services is going to cost me so much time and money to rank for that I should niche down to my specific area. And having the business address, is also going to help with that. A lot of, actually, whenever I recommend this, a lot of people say, like, isn't it weird if I drive traffic from my Instagram to my Fairfax sales page? Like, they're most likely not from Fairfax. And that's why I still recommend having your standard services page with your packages. You don't need to tie it to location. And if anybody would like an example, you can go to my website, samanthadigital.com, and then you can see like kind of this in action. And that's what I do. And not surprisingly, all of my location pages rank much better than my generic service pages. And so that is like a really good way to create a quick win. And if you're not sure what to put on these pages, then you should, let's just say Fairfax Plumbing. Then what you should do is Google Fairfax Plumbing and start looking at the first results and see what they're including, and then use that for inspiration for your own page.
I'm gonna do that real quick. I mean, why not? Like,
Yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah.
Google Fairfax plumbing. I'm kind of curious now that you mentioned it. I don't know why I use plumbing. And I think one of my neighbors is a plumber, so
No,
that's why I
that's a
used
great
it.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, it is. It is a great one. I mean, it's a necessity, right? So let's see what comes up. I'm kind of curious myself. So
It's
Fairfax plumbing. Okay.
so if you were to
And
scroll
so, yeah.
down. Okay, so first we're seeing Yelp, so we'll skip over Yelp, and then if we go to the
Sure.
next one, Fairfax Electric,
Okay.
if we click on that guy,
Sure. Sure.
so as we scroll down, we're interestingly not seeing like the best of best when it comes to sales landing pages. So honestly, I see this as a very exciting opportunity if you have any plumbers in Fairfax listening, because you could come in and totally create a more optimized landing page than this that would, help get you some leads. Like, for example, if you scroll back up to the top, in terms of like optimizing for conversions, you would want to definitely have a call to action above the fold before you start scrolling down. So like, you know, contact us, book an appointment, or honestly just even a lead form that says like, get your name, phone number, and then message. Because this image is great, but it's not telling me a lot. It's a little hard to read the text. So just that would go a really long way. And then you could go into more details about like the plumbing services that are offered, and benefits, frequently asked questions, testimonials. Those are all good things that you can put on a sales page like this.
Okay, that's super helpful. I mean, because I'll be honest, like before I met you, like I didn't realize just, like, I honestly, I viewed like SEO and this type of marketing as something that was like really complicated and that required like a ton of effort and different like complicated campaigns and media. But like it seems like even a small business can take steps to make themselves like easier to find. And I think that's one thing that a lot of small businesses struggle with is the customers even like knowing that they exist.
Right, right.
Yeah, yeah, I
Totally.
know.
And that is a very common, um, I don't want to say misconception, but maybe just perception that, SEO is so complicated or it's just for big businesses. I actually love doing SEO for small businesses because the competition is so much less. You're competing on a local level rather than a national level. For example, if you were like a SaaS agency, competing with even 50 other plumbers is nothing than like, all the plumbers in the United States. So there's really so much opportunity for small businesses, and just little baby steps, you'll start to see incremental improvements. That is one of the unfortunate things about SEO. Like, you don't get immediate feedback on the content that you're putting out there. Like with social media, you'll get likes, you'll get, engagement metrics that tell you right away.
Oh,
But
yeah.
with SEO, I mean, it can take, I like to say, I mean, it can take 3 months, but it can really take up to 6 to 12, depending on the industry. The other factors that really play a part is like the age of the website. Has it been around for a long time? The intensity of the SEO campaign. So, are you, dabbling for an hour a week, or are you like hiring someone to do this for you every single week, 5 or 10 hours a week? So, that can play a factor, as well as the industry. So, for example, a competitive industry would be lawyers. Even plumbers in general is a pretty competitive industry. Um, but it doesn't mean it's not worth it. It just means that you might start to see the fruits of your labor a little bit less fast than some other industries.
I feel like the ROI for like a local plumber or lawyer working with you is humongous.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Because one patient, one client, can pay for an entire month of services. And when
Oh
you think
yeah,
about it, like if you have a plumbing emergency, no one's really like researching. They just want the first person to call, to pick up the phone
yep,
and say, "Come fix my plumbing." Exactly.
totally. No,
Yeah.
totally. And like I know for me, if there's something that I just want like right now, I'm not giving it a whole ton of thought. Like if it's a service or product or something that I want like locally, I just like I Google search it and I just like pick one that has like decent reviews, and then I hit the little phone icon and call them. That's like as simple as it is. And if you're not on that, like if you're not like not even on the list, like your chances of people calling and reaching out to you like that are pretty slim, I feel like.
So slim. Yeah. And I think it also, at least for me as a business owner, it gives me like a little bit of reassurance that I don't only need to get clients from my Instagram. Because I mean, the Google algorithms are always updating, but Instagram and social media in general just seems so volatile. And
Totally.
having Google as like not a backup really. I like to think of it as like my primary method for getting clients, is like just reassuring that I'm not putting all my eggs in the Instagram basket. The other kind of really important piece that I feel with SEO is, with SEO, like your customers are actually searching for you, versus with Instagram, people are like mindlessly scrolling, not necessarily like know what they're looking for or needing, or just looking to be entertained. And so, having a different mindset when you're finding someone can really make all the difference. Like, yeah, like if your intention is like, I want to hire a web designer, and you go to Google, you're going to see a bunch of people, versus if you just start scrolling on Instagram, you're going to get lost looking at cat videos and this and that. And it's like much more distracting than if you just like, have your mission and you go, set out on it.
My friend, who shall not be named on this podcast, he keeps sending me pictures like strange cat memes via text, and I'm like, it's like so annoying.
That's
like you
great.
send me like all these. I'm like, no
No.
one wants to see this. It's in a group text too. I love cats, but like he just sends us like these really weird, like obnoxious memes with cats.
Yeah.
Like he sent me one with like Taylor Swift and her cat today, and like I don't know, it's just funny. I'm kind of tired of them, but it's just funny that the cat videos are like the quintessential like like doom scrolling on Instagram.
Exactly. Yeah, that's too funny.
But like, okay, so I want to pull on that thread just a second. Like, how would you like if you were starting from scratch, like, or if you're helping like a brand new business that's launching, like, how would you, optimize like the business branding and then the content strategy and the SEO, and like how would you tie them all together if you were given like a clean slate? Like, let's say like a company's like, hey, like Sam, like I really want you to pretty much be like our fractional VP of marketing. Go. Like
Okay.
you have like XYZ budget, and like we're just launching the company, maybe they're still like coming up with a design for their brand and their
Okay.
logo. Like how would you bake in all your expertise from the get-go, assuming like because you mentioned like you can't really rename your business now because you have like a reputation and a bunch of media tied around it. So like
Yeah.
if you were starting from a clean slate, knowing what you know now.
I would definitely include a keyword in my business name for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, okay, I knew you were gonna say that. Yeah, yeah.
And a lot of people worry that like, would that pigeon me to like, web design Fairfax, what about SEO? I would create a bunch of micro businesses that would all be under the Samantha Digital umbrella and create those micro brands. And
That's
that's a
smart.
very powerful approach because it's also so hyper relevant to the user's search query. So, web design Fairfax, if that's my business name, like what is more specific? Just like, for example, if you search Amazon, Amazon's website is going to come up, not some
Yeah.
online commerce shop, Amazon. So having that exact match is so powerful. So I would definitely include a keyword in my business name and in my website URL. I build out the branding. And so the branding starts with a brand strategy worksheet. This is where you get really clear on your target audience, the problems that you're solving for them, their interests, what they are attracted to. Design the brand. Doesn't need to be anything elaborate, but it should be, a couple versions of your logo, a color palette, and typography. Build out the website, home, about, contact, services, legal pages. I think a lot of times like business owners will say, I just need a home page, but you not really. Like if you're serious about your business, you need to have an about page. You need to have a contact page. Like you don't just want to put a contact form in your footer. Like have a well thought out contact page. All of those pages should be very intentional. Build out a service listing page, which think of this as like your menu of like I do web design, I do SEO, I do social media marketing, whatever the case may be. The listing, and then each of those should go to targeted pages that we would then build out. Now, kind of the important key for kind of to tie a bow on all of this, if you will, is to then create content that directs user to the services pages because
Okay.
you
Yeah.
want people to find you that are trying to solve a problem. So, for example, like how to get clients without Instagram. I could write a blog post on that and then list ways of how to do that. So whether it's, SEO or YouTube, which isn't considered social media really, like I'd list out all these ways and I'd be like, oh, by the way, like if you're ready to like work with me, that was just like an example on the flash, but you want to create those pieces of content that are going to pull in, your ideal clients and the problems that you're solving for them. And so, you can definitely use ChatGPT to come up with some of these ideas and just make sure you're, doing your due diligence to check the Google search results, see what they're saying. Do you have a chance, to rank? And so, um, yeah, the like key that additional content, those content pieces are still very important. You can call it blogging. Some people just call it, a content asset, whatever the case may be. Um, that will really kind of help you have a well-rounded SEO strategy for your business.
Oh my gosh, this is so helpful. Like this, I'm learning so much from you. I'm
Yeah.
thinking like, yeah, no, this is like so helpful. This is gold. I mean, I'm thinking so like the content is really like, because a lot of people like get wrapped around the axle of like, oh, like these these content creators that have like billions of views and like they monetize like the YouTube channels and the Instagram stuff. And my friends are all like, no, like most people just use content as like a funnel to like direct people towards their services, like their paid services, like you're saying.
Exactly. Yeah, that is absolutely what you want to do. And I guess one thing I will add to that, I kind of started to mention on it, is like your work doesn't stop once you hit publish on that post. Like, don't just crank out 20 blog posts. Take the time to really promote the 3 to 5 good pieces of content that you create. Get
Cool.
traction to those pages first, and then continue to build out more content. So, for example, promote it to your email list. Create a LinkedIn post. Promote it to your did I say email? But yeah, email, social media, just like all of the things. You can write a guest blog post on an industry related website and then link to your post. Like these are all like very crucial if you want to make the most out of your piece of content.
Oh man, that's awesome. I never considered that. Yeah, and you're almost like kind of like I don't want to say hacking other people's like web presence, but like it's kind of like you're using other people's web presence to benefit you. I mean, it benefits them
Absolutely.
too, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I've thought about that too. Like, okay, so like, well, let's say like, okay, you're like a VP of marketing for someone, or maybe you're like a VP of marketing for like multiple, and that's kind of becoming more common where people are like fractional CTOs or VPs of sales or HR VP of marketing. It works really well for some people where like they pretty much like allocate a certain amount of hours per week or whatever, or give them like a high level of strategic guidance. Like what would you do if you had a pretty like good sized budget? Like would you get a bunch of copywriters to like start helping you generate content and like kind of obviously they probably would pass through you, but like let's say you had like because like after we're done recording this, like we'll probably have like all of these little like nuggets of gold, right? Little like 30-second, 60-second clips where like Samantha's talking about like SEO. She's talking about how to wrap in your content. So like let's say you have a ton of content to release in clips from like some of this long form stuff. And let's say like you want to have a team of copywriters that all have like specific industry knowledge or product knowledge and different stuff. Like let's say you have like someone that's really into baking or like someone that's really into automotive stuff. Like what would you do if you had like a team of like contract copywriters? Like how would you direct their efforts?
So I would start by taking the time to really do keyword research and really vet the content that I want to create before I just start putting a bunch of content out there. And so I
Okay.
would, I would do keyword research, and there's plenty of tools out there. There's keywords everywhere. There's Uber suggests, but like if you're just starting out and you don't want to spend money on it, you can use Google. Like start with a pretty broad term, type it into Google, and it will give you in the drop, like as you're typing, it'll show you related searches. Those are all keywords that you want to add to a Google Doc or, a Google Sheet. And then what you want to do is scroll down to the people also ask section, grab all those questions. As you click them open, more will appear. Grab all of those. And then you're going to repeat this process again and again for just these various keyword variations. And these are called seed keywords. So for example, web design might be, um, homepage, copywriting, um, conversions. These are like considered seed keywords that you can use to then get more longer tail content that you can actually write about. And so you can do this on Google, Pinterest, YouTube, and you will absolutely come up with thousands. But then taking these and like actually vetting what you want to write about, because it's really easy to like just go overboard and create a ton of content, but actually like go where the data says to go and do your due diligence. So I do that first. Then I would
Okay.
create the content, and I would also make sure that like we're converting that content into YouTube shorts, YouTube videos. Like in a perfect world, every piece of content would have a YouTube video. Maybe not every, but like the majority. But
Sure.
if I had to film them all, it probably wouldn't happen. So yeah, we'll just say perfect world scenario. There would be a YouTube video that would be sliced and diced into Instagram and TikTok.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
I mean, a perfect person to look at. I don't know if you've heard of him, Alex Hermosi. He is like a machine. Okay, yeah. He's like a
Yeah.
machine at
I
putting out
know.
content. So I think that that's like, I mean, I guess that he doesn't really do blogging, but I don't know. I really admire his team and what they have done. I always try and like learn from that.
Yeah, me too. No, I really like it. I really like when he's a guest on some of the podcasts I follow. Like whenever I see him pop up as a guest or his wife, Layla.
Yeah, Layla.
Like yeah.
She's
Whenever I see them like pop up, I'm like, yeah, these people are absolute machines. And like,
yeah,
what's cool about it is like they have a positive energy. I kind of like you. Like they're just like they like talking about this stuff, and they come across as like genuine. Like this is what they like to do. Like this is like their life's work is
yeah,
like building companies and buying companies and growing companies. And I'm like, man, this is like it's inspiring. I don't know, it's inspiring, and they're like young too. Like so.
I know. I love listening to them like on my way to work, and I'm like, wow.
Same.
They,
No, they're both good communicators too. Like they're both like really like great communicators. They have a positive message. Um, yeah, I follow them on like everything, like like X, YouTube. I don't know. I don't not Instagram. I'm not on Instagram a ton, but except to post stuff. Like I tell my wife, I'm like I just post and ghost on
Mostly goes, oh, don't do
Instagram.
that, don't do that.
I know I shouldn't. I should like actually like spend more time looking at it. I just
Yeah,
like started learning more about like meta ads and how to like do like more sponsored content, and I was like shocked. Like the interview that you watched with Anthony, like I posted that just like as a the entire video on Instagram and just kind of like and then I clipped up into shorts and I boosted the shorts and it's like I was like shocked at like how many people it reached with very little money.
That's awesome. That's so
So
cool.
yeah, so it's and yeah, I'm still trying to figure out like how to use meta ads, but they've got a pretty like complicated like in-depth like dashboard to where you can A/B test certain stuff. You can like geographically target areas for advertisements. So I'm like getting in the weeds on it. So
Awesome.
yeah, I'm gonna probably consult with my buddy who's in ad tech, and he's gonna kind of show me the ropes. But I like learning from people like you that like you've obviously put a lot of like thought and effort into this.
Yeah, yeah, I
So
love it. But once you are feeling confident in your ads, you're gonna have to do your own podcast episode where you just tell us all about it. Because I would love to know more. I just it's like always hard to prioritize as an entrepreneur. Like, what do I learn next? Because everything is just like you learning and implementing. So yeah, but I would love to know more about the ad piece because I think and I think we kind of started to talk about this before we went live or maybe after, but how I really feel like nowadays you really need an omni level marketing approach. And, that includes ads, it includes blogging, it includes social media. And that's not to say that you need to start your business doing all of these things, but tackle one, start to feel confident doing that one, and then what makes sense for you to move to next. So for example, if you've already done blogging, YouTube might be a very logical next step of turning your blog post into YouTube.
yeah,
If it's Instagram, maybe then it's Pinterest, and trying to like kind of build out your marketing to be more than just like one or the others. So
such a good idea. This is awesome. That I'm like I said, I'm learning a ton from you. And like one of the things I've been like curious about is like even for people that have like some sort of newsletter that they just like they pull product reviews and they do affiliate linking. Like I've talked like I've listened to podcasts where like there's a small team, like it might be like less than 10 people, and they're spending like 400K a month on like meta ads. And like so imagine the reach. Like I spent like almost nothing on meta ads. Like I'm
yeah.
talking like, maybe like $30 here and there. And it reaches like thousands of people if the content is, resonates, whatever. And I can't imagine if you're spending like 400K a month on Facebook ads. But they said like the numbers work because like especially if they're selling a product or service, product is probably a better example for this case. Like they said like the conversion ratio for like every like dollar they spent on like Facebook ads or meta ads, they would get like $3 back in ROI. And like so it's like a no brainer. Like why wouldn't you just like maximize like and I
Exactly.
think yeah, and I think Google kind of ran into a similar situation where like they hired all these like, top tier like software engineers, but really like all the software engineers like the main ROI was like AdSense, right? Like the Google AdWords and AdSense, like that's the money maker for Google. Like they're making like money every time you click on those links, and it's like a cash machine. Google's an amazing business. I'm a huge fan of
Yeah.
reading about what they did. And so like even though Google does like incredible stuff, like they make incredible hardware, software, tools, like the maximum ROI for them
They're ads.
is their ads. Yeah, like it's like the no brainer, and like it's like 90% margins too. It's crazy.
That's amazing. And that's also too why it's going to be so interesting with AI, because if AI is answering everything, where do the, sponsored posts go? How does that play into things? So, yeah, I'm really interested to see how that plays out. And I'm also, even though I'm in SEO and I don't love when my content is like stuck in the like low down in the ranks, like I think Google is the best. Like I'm so fascinated by all of it. I don't
It's a
know.
great company. I mean, honestly, like they definitely hoover up a ton of data. Like, I mean, I was talking to some people that worked at Google back in the day, and like they said, like they were basically like they were building so many data centers that like initially they tried to use like really fancy hardware, like the state of the art hardware, and they're like we like there's not enough of it. Like Google is just like buying all this hardware to build their data centers. It's still the case. This is still true today. And they're like, no, no, just get like cheap off the shelf stuff and just build a ton of it and just make it modular so you can grow it. You can keep growing the data centers, and if it breaks, just replace it. Like they're like, oh, that hardware is like not gonna last. It's not as good as this other server or this other switch. They're like, it doesn't matter. Like we need to store more petabytes of data. So yeah, it's cool. I'm fascinated by this stuff, and yeah, I remember learning about Google in college, and even like the way they did their IPO, they did like a reverse auction for their IPO, which is like so innovative. I'm surprised more tech companies haven't done that since because
I don't know
yeah,
what it
I'm a
is.
Google shareholder. I'm a big believer that Google is probably not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, yeah, I don't think so either. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, what is a
So
reverse IPO?
yeah, let me pull it up. I'm not very good at. I've like read about this so much that so basically like I think they almost like put their shares up for auction, and like so like they had a set number of shares. Let me see. So let me pull it up here. Google reverse auction. Yeah, I remember learning about this in like my college finance class.
I'm
It's
so
called a Dutch
fascinated too.
auction. So it's called a reverse auction to determine the price of the shares. So in a Dutch auction, the price starts high and then decreases until a buyer places a bid. So basically, like think about like if you had a set amount of like hours you could dedicate to consulting with your clients, and like if Stripe had a feature where like you could be like, hey, like Samantha's charging $1 million an hour, and then every like minute it would drop like a little bit
Yeah.
until someone bid on it.
Huh.
So it starts high. It's so smart. So the initial target price range was 108 to 135 per share. That's what they started. So they started high. That's pretty high for an IPO, even for a savvy company like Google. And then it was lowered down to 85 to $95 before the bidding began.
Wow.
So the company priced shares at $85. So
Especially back then too. Like that does seem
yeah,
like a lot. That's so
yeah,
cool.
yeah. So it's cool. They raised about $1 billion. So yeah, they were at the IPO. They were valued at 23 billion, which is huge. And this is crazy. I'll share. I'll stop nerding out on Google. And
No, no, you're good.
but well, a lot of people don't know that they approached Jeff Bezos. Back when Amazon was like a stable company, they approached Jeff Bezos and asked him for like seed funding. He gave him $1 million before the IPO,
Wow.
and they say
One
he's
million.
still a shareholder. So they don't know for sure because like all that stuff that Bezos has is all like private holding company stuff. It's not
Okay.
public, but they say Bezos has like billions of dollars of Google stock.
Huh. I did not know that.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Hmm.
That's a side quest we went on, but
No.
yeah, I want to be like super respectful of your time because you've been so generous. But like one of the things I wanted to ask you, like I had a bunch of questions I wanted to ask you. Um, so let me scroll down. So you kind of already covered this, but like um, I think there will always be room for SEO because people are looking for information like you're describing, like they want relevant information. But can you see like AI having any other implications to your business regarding like, what type of services that your customers ask for?
Yeah, I think AI will continue to impact my business, which is exciting and scary at the same time. But I don't think people like if you get into entrepreneurship, you kind of have to accept that and embrace it. So, I mean, I'm excited to see what happens. Like, AI has helped me so much with my business and get to this point. And I do think it will impact my SEO strategy. But interestingly enough, my traffic has at least doubled since ChatGPT came out.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
that's like really good, but
Doubled?
it's also doubled because I'm putting out more content more quickly, high quality. I'm able to like work twice as fast. And so it's just going to become a matter of like staying up to date on the trends, experimenting, expect the ebbs and flows and not relying on social media. I really think social or SEO is like the cornerstone of your marketing campaign because there's so much power in it when it comes to the research, the competitive analysis, but not putting all your eggs in the SEO basket, I think is also very important. And so, I think too with AI, like quality over quantity, especially now. Like ChatGPT can spit out a bunch of blog posts for you, but it's better to focus on quality than just quantity. And make sure you're really putting out stuff that you're proud of and will really provide value to the user.
That's so important. See, I would not have guessed that. I would have thought like, like quantity was the game, like the name of the game, and then you just blanket it with like keywords and links. But I think people see through that. I think honestly, I think people like can tell if like there was like little effort put into the content.
Totally. Yeah, they totally
Yeah.
can see past it and Google can see past it too. So like yeah, and I
Oh.
guess that's another really important point to note is like when Google is deciding how to rank your content, like let's just use the chocolate chip cookies recipe, for example, it's comparing your piece of content to what's ranking at the top. And that's how it gauges where does your post compare. Is it better? Is it about the same? Or is it does it just not compare? And it keeps doing this, and that's how the rankings are fluctuating. User signals will contribute to it. So if I click on your post, go back and look at somebody else's. So um, yeah, that is like another important piece too. Like, Google's looking at the top posts to get a sense of where yours falls in the ranking.
Okay, super helpful.
Yeah.
Well, I love reserving like the end of the interview just to like really open it up to you. Um, Obviously, I want to plug your business, but I also want to like open it up to like any questions you have for me, or if there's anything like that you want to talk about. Like I feel like I've been so curious about what you do. I think it's like so incredibly interesting. I want to work with you. I want to talk to you about some like actual business stuff after this,
I
but
love it. Yeah.
or at a later time. I know you're I don't want to monopolize your whole day, but
Yeah.
yeah, what do you have any questions for me, or like where can people find you?
Yeah.
So yeah.
So you can find me at samanthadigital.com, and you can also find me on Instagram at samanthadigital.co. I would love to connect with you if you're listening in. And then questions for you. I actually have two. So the first is going to be like, what business tips do you have, or like golden nuggets could like you share with me? Because I'm so happy to know that you learn from me, but like I feel like I could also pick your brain for hours too. So it's like if you had one or two things, like what would you say?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I would typically tell people is to like always lead with value, like always lead with like, hey, I'm gonna give you something. You already do that so well. You do that like incredibly well, which is so rare. I see so many salespeople, not, I mean, people that are in business or trying to sell something. I'm a salesperson. And so like they're like walking out with their hand out, like what can the customer do for them? Like nobody wants that. Like nobody, like that's like your chances of success are so low. So, but that's not relevant to you because you already understand that. But that's for anybody that's listening. I would say, a lot of people underestimate like just how effective it is to just like direct phone call people. Like I've pretty much built my entire career off cold calls and like cold
Seriously?
outreach. Yo, yeah. Like, I mean, people still pick up the phone because like a lot of people are timid, especially salespeople in business. If you're selling a product or service, I've probably got like the most revenue out of just like calling people or like just continuously following up with them. And then every time I follow up, just like add some like new tidbit of value or information, like kind of like what you do, but
Huh.
like just continuously follow up with them. Like a lot of deals that I've closed in the past, like I haven't even like gotten, to the question of like how much does it cost, which is music to a salesperson's ear,
Yeah.
until like maybe my like seventh or eighth or ninth outreach,
Okay.
because like you might not get them the first time. And then the other thing too that I've had a lot of success with, especially if you ever want to like reach out to a business owner or like a VP at a small, medium, or even large Fortune 500 company, I call them during their lunch break. Like
Smart.
12:50 is like the magic time to call a busy executive. Uh, for some reason, people are just more receptive. At least in North America, people usually don't have like scheduled meetings from noon to 1, but
Interesting. Yeah.
they want to eat lunch, right? So you gotta let them eat lunch. So like 12:45, 12:50 to like 1 o'clock, whatever in whatever time zone that they're in, is like the magic time period to call somebody. So I would say, those are good. And then one last tidbit is like direct mailing sometimes actually works, like because people actually like check their mail. So
Oh, so my dog just started barking, so I put myself on mute. But so
yeah, no worries.
you've done direct mailing.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I've done it with success. Yeah, I honestly like some, and but so if it's super targeted, like if you have someone like here in Northern Virginia that you just like, there's a company that you just like really want to work with, and you already checked out their website and said like, okay, like their SEO, uh, is obviously not optimized. Like it's just like you can provide immediate value. Like I would send them like a really nice note, either printed or handwritten, or at least hand signed, and like put it in like either a 2-day or a ground express FedEx envelope, and like people are gonna open like a FedEx envelope. Like they may not reach out to you, but like people will open it and they will
I
look at it.
love that idea. That is
Yeah,
so.
they will look at it. And if you
Thank you.
like say like, hey, like I'm Sam, like I took a look at your website and like there's all this SEO stuff I can do for you. Let me take this off your plate.
Yeah. No,
And
I love it. Thank you.
yeah, like my response rate for mailers has been pretty good.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm
So
so glad I asked you that question now. That's great.
yeah. But like so feel free to stay on for like just a minute and it'll upload the video. But I'm just like so grateful that you came on. So thank you
Yeah.
so much. I'm gonna link to your business too, because I think like you just provide like a tremendous amount of value to I mean, not just small businesses though. Like I think a lot of like large businesses like would certainly benefit from your
Thank you.
expertise. So yeah.
Yeah, I had so much fun talking with you, and I'm so glad it was helpful. And I would love to pick your brain more. So this was awesome.